So-called progressive Cenk Uygur, who was one of the co-founders of Justice Democrats, which their big thing was to not take corporate money and to obviously support progressive policies and all of that jazz. And something that went along with that was to support the BDS movement. You can't be pro-Israel. You have to support the Palestinian movement. Those are some of the things that went along with what it means to be a Justice Democrat. He is now advocating for the support of Josh Shapiro to be Kamala Harris's VP. I'm going to explain to you why that is problematic. He tweeted this out, and God, people are not happy. Don't fall for the misinformation campaign. Josh Shapiro is the progressive choice for VP. Now, let's go ahead and debunk something here. No, you cannot be progressive and support the state of Israel. You know, there are a number of people out there that say I'm progressive except Palestine. No, you cannot be progressive and be against self-determination for the Palestinian people. That doesn't make any damn sense. That means you're pro-occupation. That means you're pro-oppression, but you're progressive. So this kind of thing is just making the round. So this is Cenk Uygur again, trying to be a complete, utter clown. He's just going where the money goes. Say whatever you want about me, but I've been consistent on this position. So there's that. Now, he spoke about this, that he really firmly believes that Josh Shapiro is the progressive choice for Kamala Harris. I'm going to explain to you why that is not the case. But first, listen to him yourself. Here we go.
Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania. I just wrote an op-ed in Newsweek about why I think he should be the VP pick. It's not to say that there aren't any other people that are good. Tim Walz is a fantastic governor out of Minnesota. I'd be very happy with either one of those picks. But I like Shapiro because he's challenged corporations and corporate power before, and not a lot of people know about it. And that's part of what was driving me crazy. And I wanted to basically set the record straight. Jordan Ewell, one of our hosts here, is going to push back and disagree with me here after I lay out my case a little bit. So real quick, let me tell you things you might not know about Governor Shapiro, and then we'll discuss. So I wrote, Wall Street banks make an intense amount of money by running the pension funds in many different states. They view the state employees who run those funds as suckers and charge exorbitant fees for mediocre results. Shapiro put an end to that when he was the chairman of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners. He also took on predatory lenders when he was Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Those lenders were the subsidiary of an enormous private equity company, Warburg Pincus. So look, I want to pause there to say, guys, Walz, who has also done this in his own way in Minnesota, and Shapiro, who did it in Pennsylvania, are unicorns. This type of stuff never happens. It's there, obviously, this happens 0% of the time in the Republican Party, but almost never in the Democratic Party. So when I saw his record throughout all these years, and actually, if you watch a lot of Young Turks clips throughout the years, you'll see me complimenting Josh Shapiro years ago, because I saw these things. So he's taken on an $82 billion private equity company and saying, I think you're predatory and you're ripping off the citizens of Pennsylvania, and I'm not going to stand for it. Usually Democrats never endanger their own corporate donors like that. Then you might
pause. Okay, so because he did this thing, that tells you that he is progressive. Because there's a number of things that I'm going to point out to you that show that Josh Shapiro, not only is he not progressive, but he's an absolute asshole. There's going to be a number of things that I show you that shows you exactly how he feels about the Palestinian people, some of the things that he said, some of the things that he's tweeted, how he feels about school choice. We'll get into all that. Like, this guy has been a complete ass. Now, Cenk Uygur knows damn well that Josh Shapiro is not a progressive. But see, what is happening over the years, the Democratic Party has watered down what it means to be a progressive. And I warned people that this was going to happen as long as Bernie Sanders continued to coalesce with them and didn't stand on his own 2 feet. And that is what has continued to happen. The same thing with the squad. As long as they continue to back and go along with Democrat leadership, this was going to happen. And here we are. So now the Democratic Party took that word progressive from Justice Democrats and the Bernie Sanders campaigns, et cetera, and they've just applied it to anybody who's just a damn Democrat. I mean, they're out there calling Clyburn a Democrat. They're calling Richie Torres a freaking Democrat. A progressive. Anyone's considered a progressive now. They're just applying it to anyone and everything. And we all know, going back to that moment, that the litmus test for what it means to be a progressive is Medicare for all. They're handing out this tag to people who don't even support Medicare for all. And Cenk Uygur is going along with it.
Now be able to get money from Wall Street. He took on Wall Street twice, kicking them off the pensions when he was on the chairman of the Montgomery County Commission was amazing. Saved a lot of money for the good residents of Pennsylvania. Now, a lot of people have concerns about his record on Israel, so I want to address that, and then I'll bring Jordan in and we'll talk about the rest. I say his position on Israel is correct, though his optics are terrible. Like all sane people, Shapiro supports a two-state solution and a free, independent Palestine. As for his support of Israel, consider his remarks about its leader. He, quote, "I personally believe Benjamin Netanyahu is one of the worst leaders of all time," Shapiro said in January, months before Chuck Schumer came out against Netanyahu.
Pause, because Cenk Uygur is leaving out key information about Josh Shapiro and his stance on Israel. So he is here. Let me tell you about this is another flip-floppity, okay? Josh Shapiro, Cenk Uygur is saying his position on Israel is correct, though his optics are terrible. But I have shown you on this show where Cenk Uygur has debated people on Piers Morgan's show about Israel that had the same position as Josh Shapiro, and Cenk Uygur, argued them down. So who is Cenk Uygur at this point in time? And I'd be more than willing to have this conversation with Cenk Uygur, but he would not be willing to have this conversation with me. So pay attention to that.
I couldn't agree more, and Shapiro was ahead of the curve in pointing this out. That was also about the same time Bernie Sanders was still calling for, quote, a humanitarian pause in Gaza instead of a ceasefire. It took 3 more months for Senator Sanders to call Netanyahu an awful, awful leader. When did Shapiro first call Netanyahu a, quote, a terrible leader? Back in November of last year, well before almost any other major politician.
That is softball when you look at the grand scheme of things. It's easy to point fingers at Benjamin Netanyahu and call him the problem. But as I've explained to you multiple times before, it's not about the problem. What happened to my phone? Damn, my phone died. Anyway, sorry. As I've explained to you multiple times before, it's not just about Benjamin Netanyahu. And this is what people have to understand. It is about the ideology of Zionism, because you can remove Benjamin Netanyahu from that position and you can insert another leader into that spot. And as long as they are still pro-Zionist, these problems are going to continue. The Palestinian people will still be oppressed and will still be occupied. So this is what people have to understand. The easy thing to do is to say that Netanyahu has gone too far and he's a problem. But Josh Shapiro didn't even say that all the time either. And Cenk Uygur is leaving that part out. He's omitting that. I'm going to show you actually not too long ago when he was praising Benjamin Netanyahu. So let's continue.
So I've got more, but let me pause there. So Jordan, you tell me, what's wrong with this argument?
I don't know if there's anything, well, I guess there's a couple ways of looking at it, right? So you frame this as the progressive choice. You think Shapiro is the progressive choice, but even in your setup and in that piece, you made one fleeting mention of walls, but in this setup here, you continually mention walls. So I guess I'm wondering, I don't see this as much as like an argument, as more like how do you make this case that this is the progressive choice when you can say both of these potential picks have done this, but this guy is the progressive choice? Why not Walls? When Walls has called for a ceasefire where Shapiro hasn't. Shapiro has conflated criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, something that you have pointed out on the show as damaging.
Let me pause here, and then we're going to go to the receipts, and we'll come back to this. So that part is very telling, ladies and gentlemen, that part right there. Yes, these are things that Cenk Uygur has called out on TYT, but he's also called it out on Piers Morgan's show. And now he's telling you the guy that's doing these same things is quote unquote progressive. Let me show you something Josh Shapiro tweeted, because tweets are a bitch. Okay. They're still around. The UN speech by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was one of the finest fact-based speeches ever. RE Mideast peace. Peace must precede Palestinian state. He tweeted this September 23rd of 2011. All right. Now, some people say, well, people have changed their views, etc., yada, yada. But let's not sit up here and pretend like Josh Shapiro was always out there criticizing Benjamin Netanyahu. Because remember, Benjamin Netanyahu does not want a Palestinian state. He's been very firm about that. And Josh Shapiro was totally on board with that. Let's move forward. Here's the part that Cenk Uygur is also omitting that I think is the most damning part of all. Hello. Max Blumenthal called this out. Governor Josh Shapiro, Democrat AIPAC, volunteered to serve in the genocidal occupying Israeli army. Shapiro did not serve in the U.S. Army. He served apartheid Israel instead. Shapiro's Wikipedia page omits this disgusting fact, and the U.S. media is covering it up. So look at this, fam. Josh Shapiro seeks to downplay his time as IDF volunteer after college op-ed resurfaces. Let's go to this part here again, because Max comes with receipts. This is from the article. It says right here, learning to coexist on a tiny plot of land in the Middle East is the answer. Despite my skepticism as a Jew and a past volunteer in the Israeli army, I strongly hope and pray that this peace plan will be successful. Everybody see this? Volunteer in the Israeli army. Josh Shapiro volunteered to be a part of the IDF. Now, there are obviously, if you're born in Israel, you're Israeli, you have to sign up with the IDF, that kind of thing. But he was not there. He volunteered to go serve with the IDF. And this is the person that Cenk Uygur thinks is progressive. This is the person that Cenk Uygur thinks would be great for Kamala Harris. This is the progressive guy. It's not like he was forced to be a part of the IDF. He volunteered to be a part of the IDF. I didn't see Cenk Uygur mention that in his article for Newsweek. He didn't mention that at all. So that's a big one. That's probably one of the most damning ones, is this part right here. Volunteering for the IDF. I don't understand how Cenk Uygur could have left that out. So there's that. Okay. Then there's this. Some public education advocates are pushing against Josh Shapiro as Harris VP pick because he supports school vouchers. More than 24 groups published a letter asking Vice President Kamala Harris not to pick the Pennsylvania governor as a running mate because of his support for private school vouchers. And what did I tell you? I did a whole story about private school vouchers about 2 weeks ago, I believe. What did I tell you about the private school vouchers? It takes money away from public schools. I also told you that records will show you that the students that get those vouchers, that oftentimes they're worse off getting those vouchers than they were before. And also that it shows no academic increase or improvement by taking that school voucher. I am heavily against private school vouchers. I've been very vocal about that as someone that has worked in the education system. And Josh Shapiro has done that against people's wishes. How is this progressive? Why would you take, again, it takes money away from public schools. How is that progressive? It's not. But this is the guy that this is the guy he think is progressive. This is crazy. He goes on to say here, I know with every fiber, this is him doubling down. I know with every fiber of my being that Mark Kelly and Pete Buttigieg would not lift a finger to help Palestine. Yes, Josh Shapiro loves Israel, but that's why he might care enough and be brave enough to fix things, because the occupation is also killing the soul of Israel. No, you idiot. That's not going to make him want to fix things. That's going to make him want to do whatever he can to protect Israel, even if that means that the Palestinian people have to die. This is the same guy who sat up there and he called the protesters, the Palestinian protesters, the equivalent of the KKK. This is the guy that Cenk Uygur thinks is progressive. This is the guy that would be a threat to your free speech, because this is the guy that wants to penalize schools that choose to divest from Israel. This guy is progressive. This dude, he said some crazy stuff. I think I commented here and I said, oh yeah, the IDF soldier. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? My comrade Nick from RBN said, you are a deeply unserious person. It's true. Like, so what this goes to show you, all that talk that Cenk Uygur did, he just wants to remain relevant. All that talk that he did saying that he was willing to maybe support RFK Jr., but then at the same time, you were debating people on Piers Morgan's show from the pro-Palestinian position, but you were willing to support RFK Jr., even though RFK Jr. called the Palestinian people, pampered, and is 100% pro-Israel. You all over the damn place. Cenk Uygur is just following where that check go, and that's what he's doing. And it's very disappointing, because for those of us that were a part of that Justice Democrats movement, that did support those candidates, that were on the ground actually organizing because we really thought that they were going to get in there and try to change things, it's really crazy how people are just going with the flow or going with whatever they can so that they can continue making a lot of money. And it's really sad. And what it's shown me is that there's no damn principles. Hey, I may not have 5 million subscribers like TYT, but at least I can say I stood on business. God damn. Because you guys, you're all over the damn place. This is crazy. So that whole thing about, I might support someone like RFK and da-da-da. The moment a Democrat was put into the race, was selected to be into the race, that was polling better than Joe Biden, he jumped right on that damn train, and now he's on that Kamala train. So all that talk about supporting the Palestinian people and helping the Palestinian people, all that stuff went right out the window when you decide to jump on board with the same person who's making the same rhetoric as Joe Biden, which means they are not trying to help these people. They want to continue giving weapons to Israel. They're going to let Israel continue to do whatever the fuck they want to do, and you were willing to go along with it because it's a Democrat and it'll help your rating. It'll help your show. It'll help your ratings. TYT is not just on YouTube. It's also on YouTube TV. I believe it's also on Roku. It's on multiple platforms. So keep that in mind. And that is a business. Okay? So this is a very upsetting part, because I feel like if you're going to grift to grift, you don't take the Palestinian people down with you. You don't do that shit off of the backs of the people that are sitting up there getting killed, that are oppressed, and that are occupied. So I feel like some of you, and I said this before, you jumped on that Palestinian train because you knew, this is going to get me views and yada, yada. Whereas though some of us like myself and those of us at RBN, we were talking about this 3 years ago when it was not popular for people to talk about, okay? Some of you jumped on that damn train because you saw there was money there were views there. And the moment someone put a shiny Democrat in front of your face, you flip just like that. And now you're out here calling people like Josh Shapiro progressive. It's just to keep the views going and the money coming in so you can continue to expand your Democrat audience. And don't get it twisted, folks. There's a lot of money to be made out there if you support Kamala Harris. There's a lot of money to be made out there if you jump on Donald Trump's train. Me as a Black woman, if I were to say that's it, I'm backing Trump 100%, this channel would jump through the fucking roof. If I said that's it, I'm backing Kamala Harris and you guys got to get on board, this channel would jump through the roof. There's a lot of money to be made there. And I watch people do it through Bernie. And I watch people do the Bernie twice. I watched people do it through Joe Biden. And then when things didn't work out really with Biden, then you saw some people say they were going to endorse Jill Stein. And then as soon as Kamala's name came up, they flipped just like that. A lot of these people, like Jinto saying, they don't need principles. They don't have any real morals. They just jump to where the money is. And this is a problem. And this is why the leftists, because we don't have a real left in this country, but this is why the leftists in this country, this is why we don't get wins on the national level. Because the people who started these organizations, like Cenk Uygur, who's a co-founder of Justice Democrats, the people who started these organizations that were leading you down that path and leading you on this movement sold out for money, just like BLM Global Network did. Because you got to be out your damn mind to sit up here and think that that guy's progressive. He sounds like Joe Scarborough. Here's Joe Scarborough here. The whisper campaigns against Josh Shapiro have dark undertones. Breaking news, he's Jewish. But just as Thatcher was identified as a game-changing force in politics instead of a woman, Josh Shapiro's strengths and talents would easily transcend bigotry and identity politics. Now, you basically on the same path as Joe Scarborough. So you may have left MSNBC, Cenk. You may have left corporate media and you started this online media called TYT, but you still got the corporate media inside of you. And that means any moment that he can try to dip back into that type of pool to get more views and more money, he's going to do that. Because I would be embarrassed as hell if I sounded like Joe Scarborough. And I'm saying I'm progressive. I would be embarrassed. That is a damn shame. Even Austin called this out here. I think this is important. It's true. Shapiro is being held to a different standard. If any other candidate had said they are too inherently violent to form a peaceful civilization about any other race of people, they would be instantly disqualified. This is another thing that Josh Shapiro said. You guys see this? You see this? That's what I told you. People don't stand on no principle. They don't stand on no principle. Look at this. If any other candidate had said they are too inherently violent to form a peaceful civilization about any other race of people, they would be instantly disqualified. Because I can tell you right now, if Josh Shapiro would have been a Republican and that's somebody that Donald Trump would have been looking at, I'm pretty sure Cenk Uygur would have called that out and definitely would not have called him a progressive. So I don't have time for this. And you guys shouldn't have to deal with this either. This is BS. And it is very upsetting to me. All the people who just turn just like that. And I wonder how some of the Palestinian Americans feel, how the people who were out there, some of the people who were out there fighting for them and advocating for them, just flipped just like that once Kamala's name was mentioned. I mean, how do you feel? Because I would feel some kind of damn way. Because it kind of reminds me the way how people went home during the BLM protests after Joe Biden won, as if all of a sudden police brutality was solved. I'm going to have that conversation Tuesday night. There is a guest that is coming on Tuesday evening that is a part of the abandoned Biden campaign. He's coming on, and I'm going to ask him about this. How do you feel? Ain't got time for it, man. I don't have time for it. But that's Cenk Uygur out there pushing Josh Shapiro. People have no shame. No shame whatsoever. It's disgusting. It's gross. You know damn well Josh Shapiro is not a damn progressive, and you guys are just filling your pockets, and it's not cool.